I am tasked to introduce to you for our speaker for today. She is also a committed and a very passionate teacher, and she's also serving. So I'll just start. Sabi niya, how will I introduce you, ma'am? Sabi ko, pero ito yung list na sinabi niya. So for us to be encouraged to serve more, as I look here, it's more on service. And our speaker for today, she believes on the same motto, keep going. So when you say keep going, you keep going, you keep learning, and keep serving. So here, she's a graduate of Bachelor of Elementary Education at Benguet State University, March 2001. And then after that, she finished also her Master's 2004 at Benguet State University. And then 2015, she's really this kind of person, keep going. So she again finished her doctorate at Baguio Central University, ECU. Am I right, ma'am? Yes, okay. So now for us to be encouraged, she's been teaching for years now. So she's a seasoned teacher. So we are blessed to have her right now to share her knowledge about assessment. So in her teaching career, she first teach at Eastern School College Incorporated as elementary teacher from June 2001 to November 2004. And then from 2004 to 2009, she teach at Mountain Province DepEd. And then from 2009 to 2011, at PSU Elementary Laboratory School. And then at present, from 2011 to present, she is currently teaching at PSU, College of Teacher Education, Tertiary. And now, she is also the present department head of DEA, or Department of Education. So, without further ado, should we have more time with her, let's welcome Dr. Alexandra INSET.
Good morning. Okay, so magandang umaga sa ating lahat. Napakagandang vacation na nandito pa rin tayo, sir, to continue serving. Whom is to be served? As was mentioned by our pastor a while ago, we have to keep serving the Lord as we come to serve our pupils and students, the very reason why we are here, and to diligently do our service for Him. Okay, so I understand that we have started with our modules yesterday, module writing yesterday, and that is the whole day of task, day-long sir, diba? So now we will be moving into another topic also, which is related to how we will be delivering more of our good service. And because PSU is actually very close to the heart of Shekinah, we are very much willing and ready to come and learn with you and serve with you. So anytime that you would come and visit us, we are always very much open to give whatever services or resources you're going to come and ask. Like learning resources as to how we are going to craft lesson plans, modules, table of specifications, the lesson for today, and whatever resources PSU has, they could be lending it to Shekinah, and not only Shekinah, of course, other partners, because ever since ever since the world began, we were partners in education. And until the end of time, we will still be partners. Tama ba ako, sir? And to our teachers, yeah, I can see familiar faces actually, and I'm looking for some other teachers if they were not around. Maybe they were absent, sir. Or they are already on the other side of the school maybe, delivering service still. Kasi may transfer po naman, sir. Like for example, when you see my teaching experiences, I started also as one of the teachers in a private school, a Christian private school in Eastern College Incorporated. So I stayed there for about 4 years. And then after 4 years of service, a calling from DepEd came to me saying that I would be going home to deliver service to my community. So I stayed there for about 5 years. And because of the call of the teaching profession to go further for professional advancement, I tried looking for schools where to enroll and started my doctorate at Benguet State University. Because of the difficulty of travel, like traveling Fridays, and then to come and attend schools on Saturdays, and then going home Sundays, and then schooling again from Monday to Friday, I transferred my doctorate degree at MPSPC actually, but that took only 2 semesters. Because after 5 years of stay in the DepEd school, here comes BSU again calling me. So you just have to wait for your calls, and it would be there calling you. You will not be the one to look for it. It is designed actually for you. Because as we have mentioned in the teaching profession, teaching is actually a calling, and you just have to wait for your calls. Okay, so as we continue telling stories, we start with our lesson because I prepared a lot of slides. I don't know if this would be okay for about 3 hours or more. Maybe format naman ang setup niyo. Lang mo ni-imig naman kayo. We do it very interactive. So mahirap magsalita dito sa mas ko. We actually go at dinner. Okay. So the task assigned to me is to discuss with you and learn with you how we are going to do assessment of learning and how we are going to do TOS preparation. Okay. So if you're going to say assessment of learning, what comes first to your mind? Math. As I said, it's interactive. I always deliver talk on a very interactive way. I do not like that you just be listening to me. I make it very interactive. So, ma'am, if you're going to say assessment of learning, what comes to your mind? Okay, so paper and pen. And when we're going to say to our students, quiz. One-fourth sheet of paper. Bakit palagi? Once the teacher comes in and the students are very noisy, or the class is very noisy, what would the teacher say? 1/2 sheet of paper. Pwede ba yan? Tingnan natin kung pwede siya. Okay. And TOS preparation. So we will find out and we will try out on how we're going to prepare table of specifications. So going back to what Mom is saying a while ago, we are going to use paper and pen to find out what students already know from what we have taught them. So there are 3 issues if you're going to say assessment. It could be an assessment for learning, it could be an assessment as learning, and it could be an assessment of learning. which one of the three is mostly done by teachers? Saan tayo dito? Ano ginagawa natin? Is it the for, the as, or the of? For? Okay, let's look at assessment for learning. So if you say assessment for learning, it enables teachers to use information about students' knowledge, understanding, and skills to inform their teaching. Also, teachers provide feedback to students about their learning and how to improve. So are we going to put feedback on the papers of our students and give it back to them? Some other students would ask us, "Ma'am, tagal mo nang ibalik ang aming mga papel." Ay, hindi pa na-check. Bukas na lang. Immediate feedback is what they are waiting for because it is being used as assessment for learning. So feedback is very much needed. What pen is being used when you're going to mark students' works? Is it a green one? A green pen? Blue mark? Or a red mark? Green? Why green, ma'am? Limited ang green na pens.
It's good for the eye.
Good for the eye. Dahil sa pagka-green niya, no? Okay, so it's nature's color. So it's refreshing. How about blue?
It's hot.
And then black. Common color. And why red? Masyado madugo. Kaya hindi pa natin ang red na mark?
Nagkaroon na ng ibang interpretation ang red mark.
Because of the connotation that red is something like 7 fading. So teachers are supposed to be careful with the colors of the pens they are using. But for me, it doesn't matter. I use red pen in checking lesson plans. Even if the comment is positive, it's still red. It's what matters most is the content of the feedback. But it would be dependent on the students if they have experiences of red ng grade 1 means failure, red ng grade 2 ang mark with teacher means failure again. So there is something that marks them too of saying that I wouldn't like red pen. Of course, you know your learners. Yung baga na, okay nga red yung ibang baga na, you are very good. Diba? Red yung tama, yung sampan. Pero it means very good naman, it's awesome. Know thy learners. So if they would not want that red or they question you, kasi from ang mga learners natin, di ba? If they said that, Ma'am, I'm questioning this red mark. So next time, you would know not to be using that red mark. Okay, that came out because of the feedback that what we are putting in the students' work. And then assessment as learning says, involve students in the learning process where they monitor their own progress or ask questions and practice skills. They monitor their own progress. Assessment as learning. When they receive their papers, they're going to look into the scores. Ay, 5 lang ang score ko. Dapat ayusin ko pala sa susunod. That is assessment as learning. But when we're going to say assessment of learning, this assists teachers to use evidence of students' learning to assess students' achievement against learning goals and standards. This is already what we are going to give as an assessment in order for us to record something and that we have to compute something and that we have to put it in the report card. Or else, they will question us without giving any assessment. Where did my teacher get my score? How did he become the first honors in the class without giving any assessment? So are we giving the three types of assessment to our students? Do we do it for learning, as learning, and of learning? Yes, we do. Tama ba? Yes, we are doing these ones. Okay, and the legal basis for giving assessment is actually Debit Order number 8, series of 2015 on the policy guidelines on classroom assessment for the K-12 basic education program, which defines classroom assessment is the process of gathering evidence of what is or of what the learner knows. Let's see. Okay, so classroom assessment is an integral part of curriculum implementation. It allows the teachers to track and measure learners' progress and adjust instructions accordingly. Do we adjust if you're going to see that the result of the evaluation or of the assessment is very low? After the lesson, you have give them an assessment, and all of them have taken below 5. Out of my 20 members of the class, all of them have taken 5/10, 4/10, 3/10. What would that mean? Yeah, we please go back to that. We have to adjust instructions. Maybe during the delivery of the lesson, you were giving them highfalutin words. You were showing them that you are the most intelligent teacher, while in fact, they are very low in understanding. Hindi ka nila napipick up. So it happens that they will give you an evaluation of 5/10, 4/10. So what should we do? Adjust instruction. Okay, it says there also that classroom assessment informs the learner as well as their parents and guardians of their progress. We have parents who are very much involved in the assessment of their kids. And they keep asking, binalik ba ni teacher ang test papers? Patingin ang iyong exam paper. Binalik ba ni teacher ang portfolio? Tingnan nyo natin ang result ng portfolio. And here come some other parents who are not satisfied, and they come to the teacher, holding the test paper. Did you try those ones in this school? Pero mga parents na ganyan, susunod na yan. Yan. Kasi number 1 is correct, pero ang mark is wrong. O kaya'y, bakit ito lang ang nakuha ng bata? Nag-study naman siya. Okay, so guardians actually would monitor the progress of the kids. I have parents before in Eastern College. What do? They keep records too. They have class records. And I have mine. So every time I return the papers, they will be recording too. Yes. And at the end of the quarter, when I compute, they will compute. And after which, what I'm going to give them as a grade is supposed to be tally, but there could be cases wherein I give them a little bit higher or I give them a little bit lower than their actual computation. And we argue. So I would tell them, they are not within your care from 7:45 until 4 p.m. There are other non-observable that I have to rate. Non-observable behaviors under your care. Hindi mo na-observe sa bahay, but I see it in school. How they treat their colleague, how they talk to their neighbors. Sasabihin niyo parent, okay naman magsasalita niyo sa bahay namin. That is at your home. They are different when they come out sometimes. So, may discrepancy sa computations namin. But not so high naman, not so low. So be careful, teachers. There might be parents who will be recording too. And if you will be returning papers not recorded in your class record, you have to put it there. Not recorded. This is used only as for assessment for the learning of the child. Tatlo lang ang muna nga nababati, score namin in this assessment. That next time, she or he would do better. Okay. Non-DepEd schools actually urge to implement the policy guidelines as well, but it is supposed to be modified under the policy guidelines of the school, like inclusion of the philosophy, the vision, the mission, and with the approval of the appropriate governing bodies. Are we agreeing with this, or may iba tayong guideline on assessment? Pareho din lang sa DepEd.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Pero sabi naman po, sir, doon pwede to modify the guideline according to the philosophy of the school. Na pwede din, actually. So, classroom assessment, we have formative and summative. What are we doing? Are we doing formative most of the time, summative most of the time, or both? Both, of course. Okay, so formative is an ongoing process to provide learners with immediate feedback, recorded or not? Formative, recorded or not? Not recorded. Summative, recorded. It's the one which is being recorded. When is formative assessment done?
Nothing.
Kailan siya ginagawa? Kailan ginagawa si formative assessment? It could be done before the lesson, during the lesson, and after the lesson. So formative pa din yan. But it's not recorded. Okay. And then, okay. What is supposed to be assessed? Ano ina-assess natin? There are three that we are assessing. We are assessing the learning standards. Baka pag-quiz tayo na pag-quiz out of the coverage kayo. It is supposed to be within the content standards, within the performance standards, and within the learning competencies. Do I have problems on this? You have problems on crafting the content standards. May problema ba tayo sa pag-craft ng content, ng performance, and learning competencies? Wala naman. Wala na siguro. Because these are given. Bigay na to ni DepEd. Do we have our curriculum guides? Curriculum guides are downloaded actually. So we do not have problems in crafting objectives. We do not have problems on content, performance, and learning competencies. Kasi bigay na yun, kukupihin na lang natin. Otherwise, if we're not going to follow the DepEd curriculum guide, maybe we are teaching different competencies that when national achievement test comes, it's not present ang mga tinuro natin sa estudyante. Do we have books? Do we buy books and give them books? Bumibili po ba tayo, sir, ng mga aklat?
Yes. Merong books from book companies. And then we have references.
Okay. Books from companies are very, very good. Only sometimes they do not fit the learning competencies. And I found out that when I follow strictly the content of the book, there are times wherein I get much time with this certain competency, like nouns. Dahil gusto ni teacher masyadong nouns. Nag-stay siya ng 2 weeks sa nouns. When in fact, in the competency, it says there, a week is supposed to be the time frame for nouns. But it would be dependent on the teacher also on how she or he is going to assess the learning performance of the children. Did they master within the week? So if they master that, then you have to move on to the next topic. Some other books contain lessons na napoprolong na hindi ay nawala doon sa competency or sa learning guide. The learning guide is there curriculum guide. It's downloadable. Meron po ba tayong sample? Nag-download ba tayo ng mga curriculum guides? Yan. Kasi isang cutter ba yun? Isang katambak yan. When? Okay. These are the ones, really. So, huwag po tayong lilitis dito sa mga competencies and content standards. If the content standard would say, demonstrate understanding of time and non-standard units of length, mass, and capacity for science, for example, in quarter 4, we have to ask them to demonstrate understanding. We are not going to ask them to identify only, but they have to demonstrate because the learning competency is asking them to demonstrate. Another is sa performance standard. Recognize, represent, and compare. Di ba wala tayong problem sa crafting ng mga objectives natin because they are already here. And these are the ones also that we are going to copy in our table of specifications. Kaya given na siya, hindi na tayo mga problema. Did you try also looking into the competency and then looking into the book? Nag-a-agree ba ang present dito sa competency doon sa libro? Sometimes. So pag nakita mong hindi, huwag mong ipilit na ibigay dahil gawa na yung nasa workbook. Dahil yun na nakakaramin. But when you look into the competency, sabi dito, it's a no-no. Hindi tinatanong yung competency. Kaya nga, aware pa tayo sa PISA result? Yes. And we are number 2 from, number 2 or the last actually. Second from the last. Yes. Ang isang findings doon, we did not give them the correct competencies. We only downloaded words. We only based on what is present in the book and then yun ang binigay natin. Kaya pagdating ng National Achievement Test, mali na ang kanilang enensya. Hindi tumutugma sa learning competency. Another issue there sa PISA result is that it is children or Filipino learners knows how to read but have difficulty to comprehend. Alam nilang magbasa, tarat-tatay from the beginning until the end of the page. Gamlo na mga, ano ba pag hindi binasa? Meaning there was no comprehension done. So which is better? Is it the speed of the reading or the comprehension? Comprehension. So we tend to start, every time we are going to read a passage, we have to give them the 4 levels of comprehension. Where shall we start? Literal. What is the title of the story that we have read? Kung ano natin magbagana, I'm asking for the title. Juana and the Bear. It's not only about Juana, but it's about Juana and the Bear. And then ask them, who are the characters in the story? Where did the story happen? In real life. Is the story happening in the real life? How did it happen? So to develop their higher order thinking skills. Babalikan the teacher about students' understanding of a lesson or a topic. So it's like a pretest ba siya? Ang formative? Yes? Okay, yes. It helps the teacher understand where the student stands in terms of conceptual understanding and application. It also provides basis for making instructional decisions. If you gave them a formative assessment and the result is 9/10, what would that tell the teacher? Are we going to take this still? Are we going to take the lesson for about 5 days pa din? If a formative assessment nila is 9/10, that means siguro 1 day lang yan for recall and mastery. Kasi 9/10 na eh. And then after the recall and mastery, give them another test. Tapos makita. Nung nga hindi nagpa-test ka after the review and mastery at naging 5/10 scores na. Ako na yung ba? Natsambahan na ni first. O kaya, alamin mo, mali kaya ang aking pagtuturo sa review and mastery. Yan. So it's a feedback also to the teacher to find out what instructional strategy should be done the best. My best na the method of teaching?
No.
No. There is a best method for a certain subject matter. So all the methods are best. So assessment is done also during the lesson if it informs the teacher of the progress of the student in relation to the development of the learning competencies. So it could be in between. Like you started the lesson already, and then you would say, let me try to see if how much would you know in this lesson. Kasi they keep raising their hands and it seems like they know more than what the teacher is supposed to tell them. So you give them an assessment to find out. Formative assessment could be done before or during the lesson. And it could also be done after the lesson. Yan. To assess whether learning objectives were achieved. Yun yung pinag-uusapan natin kanina. Find out kung tumaas. Kasi ang trend, pag mababa ang pre, dapat mas mataas ang post. Pero nangyayari na, mataas ang pre, mababa ang post dahil tsumamba lang. Or, ibalik ulit sa teacher. Ask ourselves, ano kaya ang paraan ng ating pagtuturo? Baka naman, hindi para sa kanila yung method na ginamit ko. Okay. And then, classroom assessment could be done individually or collaboratively. Of course, we are doing both. Or are there teachers who are doing individual assessment most of the time, from the start of the quarter until the end of the quarter? Individual assessment lahat. Tapno awan ang kinkinong tiya. Or collaborative assessment lahat. Malit individual. Group amin i-assessment ko. Pwede din ba yun? It should be diverse. We give individual for some time and we give group for some time. What is the purpose of giving individual assessment? Ma'am Harriet. Individual assessment. Ba't nagbibigay tayo ng individual assessment? Bakit? Bakit hindi pa laging group?
Teacher is, we can understand the lesson on their own.
On their own. And we give also collaborative assessment because nagsinaw. Eh, Maria, tama mo, may group si kakagroup ko at maka-answer ko collaborative. To strengthen their social skills, and also it could be a way of peer teaching because there were times wherein ako naawatan ni Sir yan. Ito niya si kakagroup ko, naawatan naman. Perfect pag-score ko. So, we have to do individual and group assessment. Okay? And then, for summative assessment, the DepEd actually suggested 3 categories for this. We have the written work, we have the performance tasks, and we have quarterly assessments. So what are the written works? It says there, essays, written outputs or written reports, paper and pen, as you have said a while ago. Yeah, as the word implies, written. And performance tasks are the performances also. Experiments, group presentations, oral work. Bakit kailangan mo na may written work na, may performance task na. We consider multiple intelligences. Maybe one of our students is very good in writing but not very good in performance. Kaya dapat makakuha siya ng percentage doon sa written work. One also is not very good in writing. Mamalitik susurat, nananibig. But when you're going to ask them to perform, she does it very excellently. Kaya nakabalance. Paano naman kung si bata gifted talaga best ng sa written work, best pa sa performance, best pa sa quarterly assessment? Ay, wow, diba? Gamitin na yan as a co-teacher sa klase. Yes. As we have stated a while ago, pag hindi ka naiintindihan ng estudyante na iba, gamitin mo na siya. Being a small teacher in the class. Kasi skill niya yan eh. Best na nga siya sa performance, best pa sa written, best pa sa quarterly assessment. Kaya ang gawin, you have to find who among the members of the class are a little bit weaker or a little bit slow, and then group them as one, and then get the wiser ones being the peer teacher. Gamitin mo yan, or else, maumadi dyan. Noon na what happens? Yes. Unless, the teacher has to be ready also with some other advanced tasks that you are going to give her or him when you are attending to the other learners. Diba, extra challenge? Kasi nga naka-advance na siya eh. So for some time, that could be done. But for some other time, use the kid who is a little bit advanced to teach the other kids. Pwede yan? Pwede, of course. Okay, and then, how is computation of summative tests being done? There are actually steps that are to be followed. So, for step 1, you get the total score for each component. Ito ba ginagamit natin? Yes. So, written work, not necessarily gano'n na well-time activity at the do. The written work, the performance task, and the quarterly assessment. And then we are going to get the percentage score by getting the total score divided by the highest possible score times 100. Pag transmute actually yan, tataas ba yung 83.33% na computed performance task? Yes, ang taas ano? So actually, ayan siya. Tataas siya ng 90 pag transmute. But there are different equivalent percentages. Gusto ko to. Let's do an analysis. Bakit sa language AP, ESP, they only have 30% doon sa written work? While their performance, they have 50% allotment. Bakit mas mataas doon sa performance task? 50%. Tapos written work is only 30%. So sasabihin ng, is this clear to our students? Are we going to give them first the grading, to present to them the grading system before we're going to start the class? Before the start of the school year. They have to be aware. And every time we are discussing this with them, para alam nila na, gagandahan ko naman sa performance task kasi mas mataas ang weight, percentage, sa written work, kahit hindi masyado. We do not motivate them to be like that. We motivate them to excel again and do their best, whether written work, whether performance task, or whether quarterly assessment. Back to the question. Bakit mas mataas ang performance task comparing with that of the written work? Yung logic na. Bakit tinaasan? Even MAPE and DPP, 60% pa nga ang performance tasks.
Maybe the nature of the subject.
The nature of the subject is one to be considered, like MAPE, EPP, it's really more on performance. more of tactile exercises, ang mga activities doon. How about in science and math? It's equal, written work and performance. But when we say science, it's more of concepts ba? Balance pa siya, ma'am. Tama po kayo. Concepts together with experimentation. Because it is more of inquiry. In mathematics too, it's problem-based. Yes. Always turn and start your lesson. We are all mathematics teachers, am I correct? For the grade schoolers, for the junior high and senior high, maybe they have major fields, so there are some more. But you can be using problem-based method also in your English classes. Give them a problem in mathematics and it is there where you are going to start. That is integration. Lalo na kung ang klase mo, alam mo na they are mathematically inclined and they love more math than English, you always find time to include problem solving in your lesson. You use it as a springboard in the development of your lesson in English. Adjectives ang lesson, no? Pero ang ginamit mong story is a mathematics or problem-based to solve a problem. Doon sa problem na yon, tignan mo na marami siyang adjectives na nagamit. Mahirap yun. You cannot find a problem na marami siyang adjectives na nakalagay. Papasok ang galing ni teacher doon because you have to critique and analyze together with input some adjectives in the problem. Tagluluitin mo kasi na ang main na learning competency mo is identify all the adjectives used in the paragraph. Thereby, in the problem, the math problem you are presenting them, you have to put and insert as many adjectives as you can. Kasi ginamit mo siyang motivation. Pagdating na sa development of the lesson, they will be identifying about 20 or more than 20 adjectives in the selection. Did you get me? Ako ha? Nakunin. Okay. And then, that is for senior high. Then the transmutation table is actually higher than what you have computed. And it's for the benefit of the learners. That's good. Okay. We move on to the characteristics of good tests. How is it being done? A test is defined as an instrument or systematic procedure for observing and describing one or more characteristics of student using either numerical scale or a classification scale. And test with measurement and evaluation. This is just a review. Tapos na ba natin ito ng undergrad? Also in your graduate school, you might be going back to the concepts, but in the field of teaching that we are, in the field that we are already teaching right now, results of this could actually be used as data for a research proposal. Nakapag-start na ba tayo ng mga research proposals natin? Hindi pa. Sige, turuan mo kayo. From the result of the test na binibigay mo, ipunin mo lahat yung mga scores ng students from first quarter kumbaga. You get all their scores from the first quarter, from the start of the first quarter until the end of the first quarter. You get all their scores. And then have a notebook also to jot down your observations. You jot down your observations as to how they are solving those problems, as to what are their attitudes in taking the test. So, surat mo aming nilagay. After 1 quarter, kung kaya mo nga 2 quarters, pwede din. From first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, you are holding already your record and you are holding the data. It's just a matter of interpretation and coming out with the discussion to come up with a research. Pag narinig natin si DepEd, si BS, yun na nagsasabi ng research, research man, and it seems like it's very difficult. But actually, we are the owners of the data. Hawak na natin ang data. Kasi we are the ones observing the kids, we are the ones recording their scores. So after the first quarter or second quarter, kumbaga, pwede na tayong mag-discuss. You look now into the mean, i-compute mo and yung competency yung pinakamato nga naalaga. Rank 1. And yung competency is second, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, rinang mo na, based from their scores. And then here comes now your discussion. The grade 4 pupils were able to get this mean percentage on this particular learning competency. Yun na, discussion na. Second learning competency that they got the most is this competency. You are already doing your discussion. And then, conclusion. Pwede mo na makita, more gaya mga maalala dapat, more on multiplication. Isumain nga yung recommendation mo on the last part. Your recommendation will now be, it is now recommended that there would be remedial reading instructions or more activities to be given on addition, subtraction, and division. Kasi, ang conclusion mo, mas marami ang nakakakuha masyado sa learning competency ng multiplication. Now, after you have given the recommendation, you propose now a program to the head of the school. Sir, nakita may nakasiti result gaya sa ipinang klase, itsay math performance ka. Isuma, I am proposing a program or a project that 1 hour after classes in the afternoon, all teachers are supposed to be doing a math contest. Math quiz day contests. Ano ang content ng math quiz day contests na? Ang math quiz day natin? Is it the multiplication, addition, subtraction, and division? Anong content? It is that? Okay, kasi, di ba, sa conclusion natin, they are high in multiplication. Isuma, i-join remediation tayo after classes na 1 hour. Masyadong mahaba siguro 1 hour. Let's say 30 minutes dito sa hall meeting. Identify your students or interested students should go into the hall and take the quiz bee. And then yung content ng quiz bee is mathematics addition, subtraction, and division. And then you will be having like sort of awards after. Di ba may output na tayo based from the tests or the result of measurement and evaluation done in the classroom. Nakakasunod? Di ba easy lang pala mag-research? So ganyan po ang beginning on how we are going to do our research projects para hindi tayo mahirapan. Because many teachers come and enroll in the graduate school. When they are already in their thesis proposal writing, they come and ask, Mama niya matatimayat ng problem. Mama niya matatimayat ako niya di mapanunod ko ang problem. My advice is, I always bring them back to their classrooms. Kita man yung class record mo, kanya di mabalhin yung research mo dyan. I-jay mismo students mo di usalo. Not necessarily looking for wherever in the air. Kasi mahihirapan ka talaga doon. But if you look into what is the available data in your class record, research is already there. Okay? Nasundan niyo ako doon sa paggawa ng research? Yes. So it's just easy. Recording only. Ma'am, saan ko ginamit? You asked us to jot down observable behaviors. Like, how are they going to compute? Ilang minutes sila nakakatapos? Bakit? Saan ko gagamitin yun? It's being used in the discussion. So, while you are saying in the discussion, the students Rank 1 is on this particular competency and they were able to finish within 30 minutes with a given time of 45 minutes. Instead of finishing in 45 minutes, they were able to finish it only in 30 minutes. So gagamitin mo lahat yung mga nasa notes mo in your discussion. Walang nasayang na data. Lahat ng scores na gamit, lahat ng nag-jot down mo na notes na gamit din. And there now, the output is actually your project or program on math quiz bee after classes. We do not do it within class time, yung program. The program is supposed to be done after. And it is supposed to be shared also to other schools. So, nung nakita ko, may dahil program ni Shikay na makastoy. Dahil early din na nga quiz bee after classes. They will not question because you have a basis for doing that. At the basis that it's research-based ang paggawa natin ng quiz bee. So masasabi natin, okay, nag-quiz bee kami after classes, it's because of the result of this research. And you can actually also draw some, or you can invite some other teachers in the other schools to come and give quiz days. And they craft their own questions. Tapos nung may sabali, kanya-kanayin nyo na kayo manitigi questions. You invite friends. You invite dati classmates you before. Kung ka man siya kayo, invite ko man si katapang na agito di quiz bee after classes. And it's a matter of volunteerism. They would just come because they are your friends. So it's just friends matter. So invite mo lang sila magbigay ng mga quiz bees. And so on and so forth. I hope you have taken me on that area. Okay? It's because literature review says, kakatakot to. Pakibasa nga yung verse. Everybody, 30%, go.
30% of students who grade in class are qualified for test questions.
And the second one, it is?
It is estimated that 90% of the testing items are out of online.
Nakatakot ka, no? World Watch on Philadelphia Trumpet of 2005 says that 13% of students who fail in class are caused by faulty test questions. Who are crafting the test questions? Teachers. Tapos, may 30% na nag-fail from our students. Kasalanan ba na estudyante doon? Or ng guro? It's in the crafting of the test questions. So we have to be wiser enough in the crafting of our test questions. We'll find out some samples later on. Lalo pa sa baba, 90%. Testing items are out of quality. What would that mean? Ano ba ang level ng mga questions na ginagawa ng mga teachers? Is it low level? Or in the higher level? That is why actually I have given you a copy of the Bloom's taxonomy that you can be using in the crafting of your questions. Starting from, saan ba nag-start yan? Sa baba? Remembering. Okay. We do not dwell with the domains in the lower level. We can give some questions on the part of remembering, understanding, but more questions on the part of applying, analyzing, creating, and evaluating. We will see that on the TOS later on. So it's not most of the time saying identify, recognize, label, state. You have to go higher on the part of analyzing, like debate, scrutinize, create, fabricate, propose. Propose solutions to the problems on global warming. Ang halimbawa, lesson natin is on global warming. Tapos sasabihin mo pa, list down causes of global warming. Di syempre, yung mga sinabi natin sa klase, yun ang i-enumerate. That is remembering, that's very low level. You go higher and say, what other solutions to global warming could you propose as a grade 5 student or as a grade 5 pupil? So that they would come to think of how could we be solving global warming on their levels. Diba ang ganda? Sabi ng isang estudyante ko noon sa grade 6 sa level, Ma'am, I shall be turning all the grasses outside into a green gasoline. Ay, wow! Diba? They have those kind of intelligence that we did never know. Kasi nga binabanggit natin, pollution. So ang sabi niya, free naman ang mga grasses, ma'am. Eh bakit hindi natin i-turn na green gasoline para magiging free ang gasolina? And it will not pollute the air. Sabi pa na isa, sa grade 4 naman, on environment, caring for the environment also. And when we are having our lesson in science, it happened that there was a forest fire nearby. So, being a Boy Scout, they asked my permission if they could go and help in the putting out the fire. So, in their small sizes, grade 4, nakapaapa-apa, natatakbo sana para magtulong doon. I told them no. But I told them, just after the fire, let the bigger ones do. Your fathers will be doing it, your community will be doing it. But in your little own ways, you could be helping too. Kasi kita mo yung pinagmamatuturan. So after that, I told them, how could we be helping now? The issue on forest fires. Sabi ng isa, Ma'am, we have to plant not 2, but 10 trees. Ay, wow. Tinuloy pa niya na kaya matuloy. Ma'am, dapat awan di ka ba kung yaman nagmula? No, you're thinking. Kasi nga, kabaong is made up of wood. So sabi ko, thinking naman ang mga pag-iisip nito mga bata. But you are learning from them. I never thought of that. But I heard it from him. Grade 4 at 9 years old or 10. Yung siya ang nagsabi. Dapat hindi raw bigyan ng kabakuman. Hindi nagtatanim. O, wala tayo. Nagtanim tayo ba? Nagmula tayo ba? If we did not, then we have to. So that. Isipin na lang natin, all of us will be going there. So, kailangan may kabaw tayo. Sorry for that, but it's actually katotohanan po yan. Okay, so let's go back. 90% of testing items are out of quality, which means let's look into the Bloom's taxonomy. We will be guided by that. When we ikagay mo ni Jada tables you after the training tayo, kagay yung tables you under your glass tops. Tatlong ways you want to kita when you are going to craft your test questions. Not only in your test questions, also in your lesson plans. As I have said a while ago, we do not worry already with the learning competencies because they are given. Then pwede mong dagdagan. Label and discuss. Pwede ba? Yes or no? Yes. Pero you have to know first your learners. Kaya daw ba mag-discuss na kami ng katumato kaya to EJ attainment, EJ objectives ko ngayon isudagay yung imandatan. Because it's not your objectives, it's the objective of the whole class. So you have to introduce to them the objectives before you start. Haan nga din nakakarga ng EJ objectives mo. I learned from one of my best professors before that objectives are supposed to be written on the board. If not written on the board, it should be written on Manila papers and then posted on one side of the board in order that the objectives is being shared to the class. so that they would know your focus for the whole session. Ay, ang dunod tayo, ako na ni mga draw and label. Ganyan to kayo i-draw, ganyan to kayo i-label ko. Because that is the content of the learning competency. So always share to them. If you did not have time to write to the board, if you did not have time to write it on a piece of paper, on a manila paper, and posted it there, if you forgot at the beginning of the class, when you are at the middle, and you recall that you have to share it to them, share it. Always share the objectives of the lesson. So our objectives for today, actually, class is supposed to be identifying, labeling, and discussing the different parts of the flower. Later on, I will be asking you to be drawing in your own papers the parts of the flower. You will be able to discuss and you will be able to present in class. Nag-higher level pa yun kasi they come in front and do oral tasks like presentation or talking about their drawing. Tama ba? Yes. Okay. And then, learning objectives, we keep talking about them. Let's come to the stages of planning for the test. How are we going to do our tests? Ang tugaw ng paycheck, tapos ano, yan natati number 1. Yan natati number 2. Yan natati test na aramidyo, multiple choice na amin. Let's try to find out how we are going to prepare, administer, and score the test. Okay, so the first one is actually on planning. Planning for the test is to look for the content muna. Nung tinalpas na yung EJ first quarter, di ba dito yung ngayon nakasuratan yung inyative? Sorry. Nakasuratan yung inyative, week 1, week 2 na namin. It could happen that you were not able to finish until week 4 and it's the end already of the quarter. Are you going to add that still in the content of your subject matter? Yes or no? No po. No, no, no. Kasi hindi mo na-tackle. Idagdag mo na lang siya at habulin sa susunod na quarter. Isubutin ko na nabimila. Ito yung masapol quarter 1 to 4 at nalpas ko. Bakit hindi mo natapos? Ma'am, it's because slow ang pace ng klase ko. So I was not able to finish. Thereby, you have to look into what you have finished on day, and that's the outline. Pwede pa yung outline, kopyahin mo na buo kung natapos mo na yun. You copy the whole of it, and that is already your outline. Easy lang siya. Okay. After you have outlined, then identify the learning outcomes. Pareho din lang yan. Yung 2 columns dito, nandyan si content, nandyan si content and performance, that is the outline of the subject matter, and then yung competencies is actually the learning outcomes. Yun ang isusulat mo doon. Masyadong mahaba if you're going to copy the whole of this. So you can do it in 2 phrases only. If it talks about nouns, then you write your nouns. Not necessarily copying all of those ones. Pero, best pa din na i-copy yun lahat. Only it will take about how many pages ang test, ang TOS mo, kukupihin mo lahat yan. Okay? That is planning. And then stage 2 is preparing for the test. After you have taken the outline, since this is downloadable, pwede na dito ka nagagawa. Tanggalin mo lang yung next na parts, diba? And then, or copy, and then paste mo na lang sa isang page. That will be your outline. And then, write test items according to rules of construction for the types chosen. Tingnan natin to. Select the items to be included in the test according to the table of your specification. Review and edit items according to guidelines. And then arrange items. Decide on how to group them or to sequence them. How is this? Decide. Ibig sabihin, yung natalitid ko, true false ng lahat amin. Magaling ba tigas din, ma'am? Sir? Mukhang hindi po. multiple choice na lang ang amin. Pwede ba? Pwede rin. Pero hindi pwede ang true false amin. Yung multiple choice, magaling ang multiple choice, amin. Ang magaling mga essay amin. Magaling? Tignan natin kung pwede. Okay. And then sequence would mean, where will I start? Should I start from essay as type 1 of test? Type 2 is true false, and type 3 is multiple choice. Which comes first? Hindi man nakita ito. Paligado man lang ito. Lagi nagdagdag na. No. Di lalong bababa ang result. And that would reflect sa teacher. What have you done? Sa 25. Bakit 75 lahat ang grade ng students mo? Anong ginawa mo? Nag-remediate ka ba? Or it is in the matter of the preparation of the test? Kasi ang hirap na binigay mong test. Know the learners. And then you start with the easy ones. Siguro multiple, ano ang easier sa true, false, and versus multiple choice? True, false. So, okay. So, mag-alternate response tayo muna on true, false. Ilang items yun? Maybe 1 to 10, 1 to 15. And then, test 2 will be multiple choice. And then, test 3 will be essay. Did you encounter a test starting from essay part?
Yes.
Bago ka nag-multiple and then nag-true, false? Dapat i-exams na na-encounter yung mga kasi.
Essay agad.
Essay lahat pwede. Pero pag nag-start sa essay, tapos nag-multiple choice, tapos nag-true, false,
Yun na.
faulty na yun. Ano ang plano ni teacher? Para ibagsak? Because in psychology, we actually start from simple to complex. We learn from simple to complex. Thereby, we have to start first from easier, going to the most complicated. Similar with the learning guide or our competencies. It is in a spiral progression. So we start from easier, hingga na nga pangatulay na going to the most difficult. So ano kitang tayo, i-analyze tayo. Nalaklakat yung first grading, di ba? Hingga na mag fourth grading, parigat naman nga, parigat. Mga narigat, enjoyable ni teacher ng gusto. Tama? Siguro. Okay. And then, the preparing of directions. We will learn also how we are going to prepare directions for the test. If necessary, prepare directions for individual items. If it's a matching type, there should be a different direction. If it's a multiple choice, there should be a different direction. We will learn that later. And then, decide on the method of scoring. Method of scoring like, gawa na lang ako ng 20 items, tapos 2 points each. Parang nagiging 40 points lahat. Balikan mo yung outline mo sa competencies. Na-cover ko ba lahat sa 20 items na yan? Ang lahat ng competencies ko? Balikan mo ang table of specifications mo because the table of specifications would tell you how many items should you prepare for a particular topic. And stage 3 is on the validity. Okay. How is it valid? How would you say that your questions or your test questions are valid? It says there's a number 1 is the content validity. Valid ba ang content? Baka naman wala dyan sa pinag-uusapan sa topic mo. And then, the criterion related. How many items should I be giving to this particular topic? Tinatakol yung nouns, pronouns, adjectives. Tinagitid mo lang ang number 1 to 30 ngayon nouns. 5 items lang kini pronouns, 5 items lang kini adjectives. Hindi po. And on construct validity. That is on, how is construct validity? It is the amount of questions present for a particular for a particular topic, just to say, that you are supposed to measure. Na hindi dapat mas marami doon sa isang topic and then doon sa isang topic ay mas konti. It would be determined by the number of days that you have talked about the lesson. And then, stage 4 is on reliability. How are we going to count or find out if our test is reliable? It says, reliable test measures what they were designed to measure consistently. Okay, reliability is another characteristic of any test, or precision or accuracy of the measurement, or the score, or a well-developed scientific tool should give accurate results both at present as well as over time. Reliable. Yung bang pinag-aralan noon sa photosynthesis is pareho din ba ngayon? Baka umiba naman ang question mo regarding photosynthesis. Parang sinabi mo na, what you have learned is, photosynthesis is the process of making food for the plant. And then yung question mo is that, photosynthesis is some of the ways, reliable na siya. Some of the ways on how plants make their food, check or wrong. The test item is not reliable. Because it's a fact that photosynthesis is the it's the only process by which plants make their own food. Pero ang naging question mo, it's not reliable kasi sabi na, photosynthesis is one of the ways by which plants make their own food. So mag-iisip yung bata, ano there are mga other ways on how plants will make their food. It's not reliable. Okay, let's find out some examples later on. Under the reliability, it's supposed to be objective. Nung chinek ni teacher A, 10 di score na, dapat nung chinek ni teacher B, hanggang 9 or 11, dapat 10 lang. It's objective. Hindi magiging mag-check si teacher C ay 8 ang score niya. It's supposed to be 10 pa din. So it's objective. And then comprehensive. It says, a good test should include items from different areas of material assigned for the test like a dialogue, a composition, comprehension, grammar, vocabulary, and dictation. So it is comprehensive. Hindi lang siya nag-focus into only one. May isa, gaputa paborito, matching type ka lang naman. Gaputa paborito, reading, nagpa-reading ka for the rest of the whole session ng exams. Mali po siya. Okay, and then simplicity. Do your students understand the words or the way you constructed your test? Baka naman nakakalito. Did you try or experience students coming to you asking, Mama, nilagyan na nga ibagay number 1, nahihilo po ako. Tapos nung binasa mo, ay, oo nga, ano, nakataga ito eh. Binabalikan mo yung mga questions na sinasabi, no, you leave number 1, you proceed to number 2. Because it's not simple. You yourself did not understand. Kaya sabi dito sa next slide, you try out your test. After making all of the tests, you try it yourself. Pag-test ka mo na sa sarili. Tapos kita ang lumaan sa naman lang. Okay? And then, ambiguous instructions. Scoreability. How is it being scored? Sinabi na natin yun kanina. Pag nagpili ka ng multiple choice, pwede bang 2 points ang equivalent score for 1 point? I don't know. For 1 item rather? For 1 question? 2 points is to 1 item. Pwede? True, false. 2 points each. Pwede din? Mahirap din. Mangyari ay pwede sa true, false if it is a modified true or false. Mark it X if it's not true or if it's a false statement and indicate why it is false. Mangyari yun ang 2 points. Nung ay identify na lang, nun yay item, true and false, balikan mo yung Objective. Ano bang sinabi sa objective? Identify lang ba? Or identify and understand? Or demonstrate understanding? Kung na demonstrate understanding, yun po ay modified true false ang pwede. Kasi, maibaganan na apay nga mali, day item. Yung ko na di-ulit ko na, apay nga wrong day, apay nga false day number 1 mo. Basta not false. She can identify it as false, but she do not know why is it false. So, we should be guided again by our competencies, learning competencies. And then, practicality. It is the relationship between resources that will be required in the design, development, use, and test of resources that will be available in those activities. It's like, ano ba gagamitin kong bond paper? 50 items na ito. Ag-landscape ba? Or ag-portrait na? Ibak-to-back ko ba? Window. 40 lang nito, tapos 10 EJ banner. Yan. How would you do cost cutting pag ganito ang exam mo? 40 lang dito sa unang page, and then 10 sa kabilang page. How would you remedy on that? If we talk about cost cutting measures. Yun pa din? Mag-erase tayo ng staple wire. Mag-erase tayo ng dalawang papel. Mamaanan, magtubak na lang. Hindi nag-photocopy ni clerk, nahirapan din siya, may balik-baliktad pa. So, anong gagawin ni teacher para sa practicality? I-answers na lang. So, gagawa siya ng answer sheet. Ililipat na lang sa answer sheet. Pwede din. Pero naging 3 na ang ginamit mo, Ma'am Ariel. Naging 3 bond paper na. Change font size. Sige, you can consider that. Tapos grade 1 na. Pinabakit muna, 3 lang ang compress, hindi 1 short bond paper. Anong pinaka kaya? Pinakamagandang gawin to answer practicality for resources. I-turn po kayo na lang malong. Tapos may isang papel. Tama? Yes. Kasi do a word na short. 10 items lang tiyata, di ba? Iso nga, aralilat na naman. Long bond paper. Which makes it only 1. Haan pa niya pagkaliktad yan? Estudyante. Haan pa niya nag-wasting? Stakeholder. So we have to consider that also in our making of the test, in the planning of the test. We have to consider the resources of the school. Even if it's not ours, it's being paid by our students, we consider also the resources. Tapos ada mausap tayo in the next quarters. Ganun lang po. And then, the usability. Usefulness of an object or the product. So considered as the ease of use or the extent of which the product can be used by a specified user. In education, the teacher verifies the accuracy of information obtained about the student's performance, about administrative and educational. 2. Balikan natin ang sabi ng Harriet kanina. Gawa na lang po ako ng test ng answer sheet. Usability of the material could be done the following, could be used the following year. So, idulin mo. And then the next year, yun ulit ang gagamitin mo. Tapos mabasa kay estudyante. School year 2013-2014. Ay, ma'am, hanap ka na kami 2021 mo na. Nagre-recital lang kasi si teacher because of usability. So, ang gawin, maybe, you delete yung part ng 2013-2014 kung pareho din lang na learning competencies at kung pareho din lang na TOS. Depende sa TOS kasi TOS would dictate kung yun pa din ang gagamitin mong material. On one side of usability, you could be getting some questions from the pool of the test questions that you have done. You borrow from that and then transfer it to another paper. It is actually resource-wise. Bakit? It lessens the number of hours a teacher has to prepare the questions. Or copy-paste na lang palagi. Ginamit mo noong 2015 hanggang ngayon, pareho ang exam paper mo. Hindi po pwedeng mangyari. Every time or every quarter, you have to revisit and find out. Pwedeng pareho din ang topics pero umiba ang number of hours. Umiba ang number of items. Kasi sa validating pupils mo mas advanced na ang hindi last year. Ibig sabihin, mas konti ang number of items nila na dagdagan pa ng additional competencies. Ganun lang po siya. We'll find out later. And then arranging items, we have talked this about the one. Pinag-usapan natin ito actually a while ago. On the arrangement of items. Should be arranged so that all items of the same time are grouped together. It could not be 1 to 5 multiple choice. 6 to 10 identification. 11 to 20 multiple choice again. And then 21 to 30 is identification again. Could that be done? Nagsasandwich siya. 1 to 5 multiple choice. 6 to 10 identification. 10 to 20, 11 to 20 multiple choice again. And then 21 to 30 is identification. Could that be done? Arrange according to the principle. We have to arrange the items that they will be grouped together. No multiple choice at kakadmaan yung multiple choice. Uray man po, yung multiple choice nouns lang gamin, yung 1 to 5 po, nouns lang. Yung multiple choice po, ij 10 to 15 adjectives. Yung multiple choice po, ij 15 to 20, ij 25 to 30 kat on pronouns. Pag-ipunin mo lahat pa rin yan, kasi pareho din lang sila na multiple choice. They are not being grouped according to topics, but they are grouped according to the type of test. Ganyan po. The items should be arranged in order of increasing difficulty. So we said it should start from easy to difficult. And for some purposes, it may be desirable to group together items which measures the same learning outcomes or the same subject matter content. Okay? So it would be dependent also on the subject matter. And then, writing directions. Dito na. Kaya nag-ask ako kay Ma'am Giselle for some samples of test papers if there are. Did we bring some samples of test papers so we could see and analyze our directions? Wala? Sige, okay lang mga because I heard Pastor Yama said a while ago that we should be open to criticisms, and it is there where we learn best or we learn better. If we did it before, then we are learning it today that it is supposed to be this way. So, nung pinarami ko, kasi ganun pinarami ko nung nagarami di directions ko, dapat kaya at takot kastoy. So, we should improve. This is the use of professional development trainings and seminars. This is the food for the professionals, the conduct of professional trainings or in-service trainings. This is actually a result of one of the thesis of a graduate school student. Nag-research siya kung bakit nagkakandak ang mga schools ng in-service trainings during vacations, while in fact they're supposed to be on vacation. And the result came out that these in-service trainings are actually food for the professionals. That they have to sit down and review of what they were doing before and try out to check more of the mistakes that they have been doing. I hope so. It will, because it is the aim of the in-service trainings. Okay, so when writing directions for tests should be simple and concise and yet contain information concerning each of the following: the purpose of the test, the time allowed to complete the test, how to record the answers, and whether to guess when in doubt about the answer. Paano po yun? So, writing directions. Let's try to see one sample that I have placed here. Oh no, it's a little bit small. Sige, regardless, I'm going to read it to you. On the first, dito po, sa beginning, dito. Can you see that? General directions. What did it say in the general directions? This test consists of 2 sections, meaning the child is framing or the examiner is framing already in his mind that there will be 2 sections for the test. Tama? Ay, 2 mga sections. Siguro dahil multiple kan essay. Siguro dahil multiple choice kan identification. Kukunan natin sarili na. There's already that frame in his mind because of the giving of the general direction. And then, it says there, multiple choice. What are the 2 sections of the test? Multiple choice and alternate response. Nasagot na ang kanyang tanong sa sarili. Okay. So, mom is giving me a multiple choice test and an alternate response test. The principal says a while ago that it is supposed to be given, the time frame is supposed to be given. Give the time frame in the general direction. So the general direction says, test with 60 total points. So sinabi niya, so 60 points ang aking test ngayon. Nakukuha natin? Okay. And it says there, questions were taken from lessons on nouns, pronouns, and adjectives. Dahil iyon ang content ng ating pinag-aralan sa learning competency. So sinabi mo na ang content ng inyong test ngayon ay 2 sections, multiple and alternate response, 60 minutes ang test, and then ang coverage niya ay nouns, pronouns, and adjectives. That is for the general directions. And then you give now test 1. Ito na po siya sa test 1. Okay. Sa test 1 natin, we are going to say, read each question carefully and choose. Yan, nakakapitalize po yung 1. Kasi there are some students, pag nakita niya, baka pwedeng dalawa. Pag mali ko ang A, baka sakaling tama ko ang B. Pwede? It is in the direction that it says, choose one best answer from the given choices. And write the letter of your answer on the blank after the number. So, ang sinabi niya is, kaya siya nagbigay ng blank after the number. Bakit hindi before? Parang mas maganda ang format ng aking test. Pag ibibigay ko yung blank dito sa beginning. Bakit kaya hindi doon sa beginning? Yes, ma'am. We read from right to, left to right. So, dapat ang sagot niya ay doon sa last. Isusulat doon sa last. If I may show you my test paper before, tingnan natin kung kaya niyang i-draw from the hyperlink. Exams in English class. This consists of 2 sections. Test 1 is, or inuray mo ay nag-distribute namin. Tapos hold your test papers. That is usually done with lower grades classes. Hold your test papers. See test 1. Test 1 is a multiple choice type of test. Is it 1 to 10? Will you check? I-check nila kung 1 to 10 talaga. Baka dati 1 to 11, saan nanggaling? Saan nanggaling yung number 11? It should be 1 to 10. And then after 1 to 10, you go to test 2. See test 2, it's an alternate response type of test. It contains 10 items. All in all, you will be getting 20 points all and all. Hindi ko siya sinulat, pero sinabi ko sa aking klase. It's different with grade 1 and grade 2. I also tried teaching all the grades actually. I tried teaching all the grades, even multi-grade. My first teaching in the public school is multi-grade class, a combination of grades 5 and 6. In my stay in Easter School, I started from grade 4, 3, 2, kasi tila-tila naman mag-ipipan na ganyan, di ba? Hindi ka naman namimili. And then in the debit schools again, after the multi-grade, I taught grade 1 and grade 2, and then they brought me to grade 4 and then to grade 6, and that is my exit already. My principal doesn't want me to go, but I have to file a resignation saying that could I go and try some other schools because of my thirst for knowledge. And it will not end there. I should be coming back and share. So every time during vacation, I find time to go and talk also to design to INSET of teachers there. Okay. Bakit hindi makita? Ayaw niyang ipakita ang aking hyperlink. Okay. Well, anyway, go back. I don't know how. Hindi niya pinakita ang hyperlink. Okay. So, any question so far from the crafting of directions? May tanong po tayo? Sige, tuloy ko istorya at tatay. In the grade 2, when you are going to teach grade 2, they could hardly read yung directions, di ba? And sometimes they keep coming to you, Mama, anong gagawin? Mama, anong gagawin? What should I do? What should I do? So, distribute all the test papers. Once they are holding, you hold yours. And then show it to them. Everybody see your test papers. Can you see test 1? Yes po, ma'am. Let's all read. Okay, so sasabihin yan. You read the direction. Tanungin mo sila, what should we do again? Encircle. What should we do again? Encircle. So that's the time that they will put it in their mind that they will be encircling the letter of the answer. Or else, some would be underlining, some would be putting smiley faces, some would be putting boxes. So you have to read it to them that you are supposed to be encircling. Yan. Okay? And then, analyzing and revisiting the test. How is this? Retain, edit as necessary, or discard items on basis of analysis outcomes. Revise the test as a whole if necessary. The difficulty of that item is supposed to be considered, discriminating power, and the effectiveness of each alternative. How is this done? If you're going to analyze the test, after you have taken all the papers and you were checking already, you try to do item analysis. So, gagawin mo, bilangin mo lahat. Ang ginawa ko, ang pinakamadali sa item analysis. Because with my 50 students, and then I'm going to tally all yung mga scores nila, I give them all the papers. And then I'm going to ask them, who got number 1? Mas maganda yung who got kaysa sasabihin mo, who did not get number 1? Di ba? Ano kaya ang feeling ng bata na mag-base ng sagot? Maybe for some, they are proud to say, I did not get, but how about the others? So, mas maganda na i-turn it into positive setup. So, sasabihin mo, how many have taken number 1? So, i-raise ang kamay. Pero ang bibilangin mo doon is pwede yung ilan ang nakakuha, ilan ang hindi nakakuha. So, you do it for the rest of all the items para mag-item analysis ka. Ngayon, pag nakita mo, very easy yung number 1 and number 5 and number 10 kasi lahat ng students ko nakuha nila. Yung 50 na students nakuha lahat nila yun, items na yun. Pag kinuha na may 9, may nagka-mistake sa other items, that is an average item. So easy item pag nakuha lahat nila. Average item pag may pag nasa gitna yung scores nila. Like 6, 7, 8, 9, mali. hindi nakakuha kayo, gano'n. Or ang nakakuha, tama ba ko? And then, pag halimbawa doon sa difficult item, wala nino man nakakuha, o kaya isa lang ang nakakuha sa number 10, you would consider number 10 item as difficult question. Ma'am, anong gagawin ko? Discriminate, change, or retain? Sige, challenge yung next learners. Baka makita nyo, hindi natin nalainuhaan. Pwede din. Pero sa principles ng assessment, we discriminate the difficult item. Kasi isa lang ang nakakuha or walang nakakuha. Anong gagawin? Revise the item. It could retain. It does not necessarily discriminate na tanggalin, ha? Revise. Gawin mo siya, i-revise mo yung statement ng question in order to make it a little bit easier for your learners. In that case, pag binigay mo ulit yung item, pwede mo ilagdag sa kasunod na quiz. I-try ko, i-try na item, nakita ako naman yung kaala. Kasi i-test 1 lang, or 1 pulos lang kalagin niya. And then after which, nagbigay ulit ako in my remedial class, itinikinita 5 lang matehan na nakaala. Acceptable na ba yung item na yun? Pwede na po siya. Okay. And then, reproducing the test. Decisions need to be made regarding page, yung sinabi natin, anong page yung gagamitin, the size, the type size, the page layout, the length of the line, the placing of the items, provision of response, and then arrangement of alternatives in multiple choice and so on and so forth. Pag tinignan natin yung mga test natin, magkakalinya ba lahat-lahat? Yes or no? Dapat magkalinya lahat ang number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5. Yung mga choices, pwede ba ang choices na yung ganito? Horizontal. A, tapos comma B, comma C, comma D. Magpipipit ang papel. Isang kasi na lang. We follow standardized exams. We train our learners for standardized exams because we cannot go away with standardized tests. It's always meron at meron standardized tests. Board examinations. So as early as grade level, as early as they are in the grade levels, we train them with the standardized form of test. Multiple choice na pababa. So hindi mawawala ang multiple choice supposed to be sa ating mga quarterly assessment. Dahil, I learned that from my principal in the debate before. It is because standardized tests are always in the form of multiple choice. Unless you are training them to become lawyers, that their exams would be essay. Kaya mag-essay ka na ng mag-essay. Sa 50 students mo ba lahat yan mag-law? Mukhang hindi. Some will become engineers. And all standardized tests are multiple choice. Kaya bigyan natin sila ng, we expose them with multiple choice types of tests. So lahat dapat magkalinya. And then, hindi magkalinya yung number 1 doon sa, kung balikan natin yung test natin kanina. Ayan. So, dito po siya. Sorry. Okay. Di ba may diferensya? Yes or no? Yes. There is an intention going there for the choices. Para there is they could decipher the question or the STEM and then the responses. So the STEM and then responses. It's always in standardized tests also that letters are capitalized. So palagi, ang choices mo capitalized. Ano pa yung sukatakman na nalpas ko wording questions ko in last year na small letters sa amin. We try to learn by applying what we are learning in our trainings. Or from readings. It's not necessarily only from trainings. If you heard your principal after the observation that the principal have some notes, then you have to revise your earlier crafts. And then, dito, nag-move din siya. Pababayan. So, hindi pwedeng dito ako mag-comma, comma, comma, comma. Because standardized test is not that way. It's drop down siya, pababa. And then, font size for grade 1. Ano ba yung font size natin for grade 1?
Who's teaching grade 1?
I usually use 14 or 16.
Ma'am?
I usually use 14 or 16.
So, from 12 to 16.
14.
14 to 16. That's best actually. Bakit? Because of their... Okay.
Dapat bigger ang fonts for grade 1. And then, how about for grades 4? Anong font? 14. Masyado din malaki, pero pwede. Katamtaman lang siya. And grade 6, and then junior high and senior high. About 12. Okay. Normal and standardized. Standard size, font size is 12, not 11 or 10. Dahil kung compress over, mga tatay na activity resources, hindi naman yun. We have to consider also our learners. Baka yung DMT ka po nang nababanto this course na kapag i-test mo. Ayan. And then another thing, hindi ko na pinagawa po. Placing of items, provision of responses, the page numbers. Sometimes your page numbers, nagkakalito. Dapat no one talaga. Next page na, hindi pwedeng 4. 1 and then nobody, okay, turn the pages, we'll check the number of pages if you have the complete pages. Page 2, page 3, page 4. Ang mababalik ako na, basta, ikita nyo lang ta, kompleto na ito. Ayan natin page 2, turn kay last page, mabang natin page 2. Ma'am, nakakalito po ang exam nyo. Dapat kung hindi maayos from your tryout, you have to restructure and change kung may kailangan palitan. Okay, so that is for the length of the lines also. The length of the lines, when you're going to look into my sample, hindi kayo makita ang aking, sino ang
Technomagic natin dito. Sa aking, ano na ito eh. Parang hindi siya nag-move sa hyperlink. Para may ipakita ko ang sample. Malayo. Sir, I don't know how. I have sige lang, you can go for a water break or yes sir, tapos dapat itong pupunta siya kay sa naka-hyper. Sige lang. Yung word na lang. Sige. Ako na lang break kasi may break pa lang. Hindi kayo nagsasabi eh. But I like it. No one stood up for long time. They wanted to give it. Sa kanan na lang ito. Ano ba yun? Dapat nag-quad ano, may ma-reported. Tapos pwede silang mag-quad. Ayan.
may photo.
Pastor, nakaread only kami na ito sa mga one pastor read only.
Click mo ngayon.
The presentation is done for everything. Sakto na lang. Ay, talaga yun.
Ang doctor?
Sa tempat bangun dati, bisa bisa kalau makin boleh masih jangan yang tidak bunyi. Ya.
Nakarecord di ka mo.
Sige, Ma'am Lestra, doon na lang sa akin, sa work ko, sa desktop. May type dyan. Nag-enhancing. Ayan, sige. Yan. Ikaw na, ang Lestra.
Coffee mo.
Kasi sige, habang ag-break the payment tadi. At dugo na
The percentage carries that.
J percentage. From their
For lower grades, be careful also in giving directions because I have an experience of saying, put a star around the letters of your answer, like A, B, C, D. Put a star, and then one kid did it this way, put a star. Naka-star lahat siya doon. When in fact, I would mean that this is supposed to be the star. Yes. So, there is supposed to be an example just after your direction. An example is given you. Or number 1 is given as an example. Kaya si number 1, ayun ang question niya, these are the choices, and then binigyan mo siya ng sagot. Did you get me? Yes. Okay. And then, we move on to the administration of the test.
When it is time to have students take the test, there are several things you should keep in mind to make the experience run as smoothly as possible. Right? Having extra copies of the test at hand, because there were cases where you have distributed all the tests, and then one would say, Mama, matikopyak. Ay, you wait for me, I'm going to photocopy. Nasimulan na lahat nila. May magpiprint ka pa sa hahanapin mo pa yung file mo sa laptop mo. That's taking time already. Tapos nung di man pa nagsubmit ka, ipasahan mo amin. Sino ang lugi? Tapos mababa ang score niya, sino may kasalanan. And then sasabihin niya sa nanay, Ma'am, nag-ubiak kami niya, nag-isang nag-print pa lang ni Ma'am Puti, test paper ko. Okay, so anticipate or expect the unexpected. You have to have extra copies. Another is have extra copies, okay. Minimize interruptions during the exam by reading the directions briefly at the start. So you give directions at the start and do not interrupt at the middle. Baka gusto mo lang magsalita. O tignan nyo, yung number 10, baka nakukuhan yan. May twist na questions yan. It's not necessary for you to tell them. Let them take the test at their own basis. But it's not you're supposed to be in test 4. Yan. Pwede ba yan? You just have to wait for them at their own pace. Anyway, you have given them already the number of minutes. Sila na ngayon maghati-hati ng number of minutes nila. Periodically write the time remaining on the board. It's like board exams. Di ba nagsusulat si Ma'am ng remaining time sa harap? So, if it's an hourly, per hour ang pag-change mo, 2 hours left. And then after hours, per minutes na siya. Like 30 minutes left. After 30 minutes, 15 minutes left. 10 minutes left, and then 5 minutes left. You can be telling them orally already because there are some students who would not be looking into the timer on the board. So you could be telling them. Okay? Ma'am, pwede ba akong ikot ng ikot sa classroom? They get distracted. So what should you do is just to position yourself on a place wherein they could not be disturbed. Kasi pag ikot ka ng ikot dyan, they're not comfortable if you keep walking around. Staying in front or on the side could be okay already for the test. And then seating arrangement. Pwede bang during the time of the exam, guguluhin mo na ang kanilang mga proper seating arrangements. Parang they are familiarized with already, are comfortable already with that kind of seating arrangement. But here comes the final exam or the quarterly exam. Guguluhin ko na ngayon. Palit kayo. Palit. They will not be comfortable also with that. So, kung saan sila, maybe you just have to give a little bit of spaces. Baka may effect yan sa result ng scores nila or exams nila. Okay. Create new tests for some basic tips. Create new tests each time you will teach a course. Yun ang sinasabi ko kanina. Always craft new questions. You can recycle the old ones, but be sure that it is a component of the topic. Leave yourself time to write the test. So it's taking time. Oh, pwede, sir, pwede bang 2 days na walang klase para magawa kami ng test questions. It's usually part of the job and you cannot suspend classes just for you to make your exams. And then create a test bank or bank of questions. How is that? If you have found some questions earlier in the previous test na maganda, you cut them and then put it in your test bank. Pag sa printed copy. Pero pag hindi sa printed copy, pwede mong ilipat doon sa another file folder mo na nakalabel na test bank for English. Kasi pwede po siyang balikan pagkatapos na or pagkaraan ng taon that you could recycle. And then layout of the exam, pareho din yan. Okay. How many minutes is multiple choice taken? Ilang minutes dapat ang multiple choice? 5 minutes for one item? Ano kaya? Depende? Ano man? Sir? 1 minute is to one question. For multiple choice and short response, short answers. Like, alternate response, I should say. The true or false and the multiple choice could get 1 minute per item. No, puna na to, short answer. Like you are requiring a sentence, 2 minutes per item. And then 5 to 10 minutes for a longer short answer. And then 10 minutes for a problem that should take 2 minutes to answer. 15 minutes for short. And for your short, focus and question. And 30 minutes for an essay or more than 1 or 2 pages. This is your guide when you are going to give the general direction. So if you are giving 50 items multiple choice plus 10 points alternate response, how many minutes are you going to allot for the test? 1 hour. So your test will be good for 1 hour. Sulat mo doon or sabihin mo sa kanila. Tatlo ba kalanda ka, ma'am? Tatay mo maglahay. Good for those of us, students who could be answering for 30 minutes and they would be submitting already their papers. How about the others who are not? Okay. How did you do your exams during this online classes?
We had the
Virtual exams. Did it follow the same guideline? Medyo. We're very much considering tayo ngayon, diba? Kaya binibigyan natin sila ng more or longer time. But on the process of the face-to-face exam, this is supposed to be followed. Pero considering pa rin ng teacher during face-to-face, ma'am, hindi pa po ako tapos. Okay, extension of 5 minutes. And then after 5 minutes, ma'am, hindi pa po ako tapos. Another extension things. Diba? Okay. So, guidelines? Not necessarily. Yeah. We move on to samples of test of multiple choice test. Okay, examples of multiple choice test rather. What is the effect of releasing a ball in positive gravity? Pwede ba yung question na yan and then the responses? Sige, let's analyze. Pwede ba siya? You can follow the principles. Yes, no? Balikan natin ang principle. Sorry na. Okay. When checking the stems for correctness, ensure that the stem asks for a clear question, reading level is appropriate to the students, and the stem is grammatically correct. Negatively stated stems are discouraged in a multiple choice type test. Let's see the example. What is the effect of releasing a ball in positive gravity? Letter A is correct. Letter B is true but not related to the stem. Letter C is false but not related. False but related. And letter D is false and unrelated. Ibig sabihin, the item is faulty. Hindi siya pwede. Which is better? Ano ang better doon? Yan ang hindi correct answer na din siya. Wait. Nagulo. Nawala. Okay, nevertheless, hindi siya pwedeng gawin na item. Let's see to it that the responses are supposed to be related to the item. It's like making a multiple choice test, and because you cannot find for an answer or for a choice for letter D, ang linagay mo is all of the above related pa rin yun. None of the above related pa rin yun. Like, it's out of the blue na ilalagay mo lang ang letter D. Ganon siya. Hindi siya pwede according to the principle. Yeah. And then, use negatively stated stems sparingly, and when using negatives such as not, you have to underline yung not. And i-bold mo pa yung not doon sa stem. Let's see. Use none of the above and all of the above sparingly, and when you do it, don't always make them the right answer. But easier way on how teachers craft the questions, no ikargamti all of the above, yun ang tamang sagot, di ba? No ikargamti none of the above, yun naman ang tamang sagot. But it's not supposed to be done always. Or else, pag nakuha ng estudyante ang pattern mo, alam na niya, uy, ang mukha niya basta all of the above, basta kadaanin all of the above na. Correct. Is the answer. And then, only one option should be correct or clearly best. Hindi pwedeng A and C are somewhat correct answers. So, which one should I choose? Is it letter A or letter C? Mahirap din, di ba? Mamukha naman correct ang letter B na mali. Ay, ang letter A na mukha pong tama ang letter A na mali. Similar with letter C. Mamukha pong mali na tama. So, nalilito si student. You have to make it that there's only one best and most correct answer. Okay? So, all options should be homogeneous and nearly equal in length. Yun ang sabi natin kanina. Pare-pareho ang length nila. The stem should contain only one main idea. And then keep all options either singular or plural. No singular iti letter A, dapat singular amin iti B, C, D. No plural iti A, plural namin yung B, C, D. And have 4 or 5 responses per STEM or question. It could not be that number 1, 2 choices only. Number 2, 3 choices only. Number 4, 5 choices. So if the pattern is A, B, C, D, you have to make it A, B, C, D. Pag gusto mong maglagay ng E, dapat A to E lahat-lahat until the end of the last item. When using incomplete statements, place the blank space at the end of the stem versus the beginning. Okay? When possible, organize the responses, reduce wordiness. Kung ang haba-haba talaga, you have to reduce and compress. And then, when writing instructors, think of incorrect responses that the students might make. Distractors like, sometimes naglalagay tayo ng always, similar to, dapat bawas-bawasan natin mga ganyan. Kasi nakakalito talaga. Have you tried taking exams na nalilito ka talaga? And then you keep going. Hindi ko, ay, alam mo, sumunod sa number 10, ma'am. Nakakalito man siya. It's a faulty test item. May kasalanan? Guro po ang may kasalanan yan. So we go back to the 13% and the 90% of faulty test items. Okay? And then, the stem of the item should be meaningful by itself and should present a definite problem. That's the question. Definite siya. The aim or the item stem should include as much of the item as possible and should be free from irrelevant materials. There are some teachers na naglalagay ng irrelevant talaga. Nilalagay ang pangalan as part of the choices. Who is the national hero? Dr. Jose Rizal, Andres Bonifacio, Apolinario Mabine, and then, ano pangalan mo, sir? Ryan. Yan. And then, Romy, ilalagay mo ang letter D. So, ang lang sasabihin ni student, bakit kasama ang pangalan ni Sir Tito? Hindi niya binasa yung step. In-insert ko na yung pangalan ni Sir. Nagbabakasakali lang tatlo favorite na. Pa-insert ko lang na ganyan. Pero hindi talaga yung tanong ang kanyang sinasagot. So the question, one of the choices is faulty. Hindi po kasama ang pangalan mo doon sa exams. Nangyayari din. We are using our names as doon sa matching type. Tapos nilalagay natin na ma-form ang pangalan natin na yun ang sagot. It's faulty also. Because when they got the first letter, and nakita na nila na ang pangalan ni Ma'am ito yung Alex, sama na. Isulat na without reading kung ano ang content ng questions. Pattern lang yung na-discover niya, sinulat niya. So it should not be done. Okay? And then, items used to measure understanding should contain some novelty, but beware of too much. Okay? All distractors should be plausible. The purpose is to distract the uninformed from the correct answer. Verbal associations between the stem and the correct answer should be avoided. And then, the relative length of the alternative should not provide a clue to the answer. How is that? Is the longest choice be the correct answer for the question? Nangyayari ano? Ay, dito yun, the answer to ati-ati-ati do. Ibig sabihin na explain niya lahat, na expound niya lahat. And then, the relative length of the alternative should not provide a clue. That's again. The correct answer should appear in each of the alternative positions an approximately equal number of times but in one order. Ibig kong sabihin yan, hindi pwedeng lahat ng sagot. At ano na lang nakatigas na check sa A, namin na mag-ikarga the answers. Or B lahat-lahat. Or C that it should vary in random. Ganun lang po ang ibig sabihin na. And then, example, let's see this. Shenton developed a highly controversial theory of personality based on body type and temperament of the individual. Which of the following is a criticism of Shenton's work? What is your answer? Mamamingin na talaga ni Sheldon. Sumami ang the answer. Okay. Regardless, ang tamang sagot, ang tamang pagsabi ng question niyan is ganito, eliminate excessive wording and irrelevant information. Tanong kitang gawin ni Jen, nag-ati-ati tuwin natin kahit nakasagot ni ma'am, ay natin question ni ma'am. I cannot get. Ganun i-restructure mo yung question na maging kastoy. Which of the following is a criticism of Schindler's theory of personality? Klaro ba siya? Yes. Comparing to the first na statement. It's very lengthy and nalilito sa estudyante. Ang ibig ko lang palang tanungin ay, which of the following is a criticism of Sheldon's theory of personality? Ganyan po. Another example. The receptors for the sense are located where? Ano ang mali dito? May kulang? May mali? Analysis? Tignan natin. Include in the step any words that might otherwise be repeated in each option. Like, the receptors for the vestibular senses are located in the. Kaya, nandun sa last blank. In the A, B, C, or D. Nakuha? Okay. And then C, another example rather, which is not a major technique for studying brain function. Ano kaya ang mali dito? Nabigyan niyo yung principle kanina. Ano ang clue? Ano ang clue? Anong gagawin sa na? Okay, it should be bold or capital because it is a negative distractor. Kaya gawin natin bold and capitalize, which is not. Isumatin ko na natin, kaya na ipanunod na hanapin ko from the 4 choices ang hindi kasama sa grupo. Okay. Major technique for studying brain function. Okay. And then, this one. Tama, mali? Mali. Blank pa lang nasa unahan. So, dapat ay ganyan siya. The least severe form of behavior disorder is nasa hulihan ng question. How about this? Where part is supposed to be restructured? Where part of the question is supposed to be restructured here? Sa choices, very good. Multiple capital, pwede. Mamula po, space, pwede rin, that's the format. Pero, sa arrangement din yan. C. Letter A, 5 million from least to greatest. I-arrange na ganyan. Hindi magkakahalo. So, 5M, 35M, 16, 65, and then 115. Okay. Meron pa. Ito may kaya. Anong problema niya? Sa choices. May mahaba. Anong dapat? All alternatives should be approximately equal in length. Hindi masyado mahaba ang iba. That's the principle we have talked about a while ago. This is your activity for this afternoon to prepare 2 multiple choice tests. Not only 2. This is supposed to be an activity for today to craft multiple choice tests. Pero let's move on. Ito na lang mga gagawin ninyo mamayang hapon. Okay? How about true-false test? Each statement is clearly true or clearly false. Hindi mukhang true na false ang item. Trivial details should not make a statement false. And statements are written concisely without more elaboration than necessary, and statements are not quoted exactly from the text. Hindi copied ang nandun sa book, and then yun na mismo ang ilalagay mo sa test questions mo. Okay? And then, mahaba masyado yan. Ito na lang. The following are some guidelines according to Worden of 1999 to construct a good, true, false test question. Number 1, avoid double-barrel questions. Write questions that ask about a single idea. Another, avoid using negative wording in false statements. Doble, kamali. Mali na nga, dinalagyan mo pa ng negative words. Nagiging doble mali. And then, avoid approximately the same number of true and false questions. Use approximately the same number. What does it mean? No, 10 items, at least medyo ang pada. 50 false, 50 true. Or 60 false, 40 true. Hindi pwedeng 1 to 9 true, 10 false. Or tatlo na lang nakatong na i-check, 1 to 10 false amin. Diba? Ginagawa natin yan before when we did not review these principles. But when we come to look into the proper ones, we have to agree with these ones. Kasi mamaya, tatanungin tayo ng student. Bakit kasi ma'am yung question mo, naging false lahat ang sagot? Bakit hindi ka naglagay ng true? Okay? And then, keep the length of the true-false questions about the same. Pareho din lang sa multiple choice. Avoid writing long and complicated questions. You have to break them into simple sentences. If it's a paragraph, it will not be from the start until the end. Isang period ng isang paragraph, isang statement lang yun. Break it down into sentences. If it's possible, you get the main idea of the paragraph and make it as a single statement para hindi ang haba-haba ng babasahin ng examiner. Avoid using absolute terms using superlatives such as always, never, the largest, the best, usually, generally, etc. Hindi pinapayagan din yan sa pag-graph ng multiple choice test according to Warden. And do not include irrelevant material. Yun ang sabi natin. Ba't naglalagay tayo ng pangalan kung hindi dapat? Pero pwede ba ilagdag ko yung vision ng school? Pwede kaya? Doon sa template order sa legal basis na binasa natin kanina, we could do some modifications provided it is within the vision, the philosophy, the mission, and the objectives of the school. So tingnan natin kung pwede din siyang mai-integrate sa ating exams. Okay. And then, pareho din lang yan actually. So let's look into some examples. Find the errors and or problems with the following true-false statements. Number 1, repetition always strengthens the tendency for a response to occur. Which is, or there's the word, making it faulty. Anyone? Always, yes. So, hindi dapat ginamit ang always doon. Using always usually means the answer is false. Okay, ito. The process of extinction is seldom immediate but extends over a number of trials. Words like seldom usually indicate a true statement. Kaya, binabawalan yung paggamit ng mga words like always, seldom, similar to, ito naman, express a single idea in each statement. The mean and standard deviation are measures of central tendency. Yun lang palang gusto kong sabihin. Bakit ang haba-haba ng first na statement mo? It's like saying, the mean, median, and mode are measures of central tendency, whereas the standard deviation and range are measures of variability. Mahaba siya. Kailangan pinag-iisipan din pala ang paggawa ng question, inuupuan. First revision, second revision, third revision, until you come up with the best question. So, what you are supposed to say pala, para hindi very lengthy ang question mo, is the mean and standard deviation are measures of central tendency. Period. Okay. And that will be the activity for the afternoon again. How about essay tests? Pag-aralan nga natin or i-review natin kung paano gumawa ng essay. Okay. So, essay came from the French word essayer, which means to try out or to attempt to do. Some other teachers are very fond of giving essay because of it's easier to score. The administration is very easy. You just have to give, there's no problem in copying. But when we come to scoring, there it would get bulk of the time in checking. And being nga gamit ng question like the essay 1 or 2, yung na-check ka, it's longer than the time of making your objective test. How they are going to craft paragraphs, that ang gaganda talaga. Even with younger ones, we can see these ones also in our students. And then, it largely eliminates guessing. Hindi sila nag-guess. Kasi syempre, kung ano talagang idea nila about, like for example, talk about global warming. Yan, mahaba yan. So you have to look into what is supposed to be scored doon sa global warming. Naglagay ka ba ng reasons why there would be the cause of global warming, the effects of global warming, kasi yun dapat ang i-scorean mo. Hindi lang kapagkita mo, ay katitong na ito, 10 points. Okay. So yan. There is actually holistic and analytical scoring in essay writing. Pag holistic, titignan mo kung may intentions ba siya, gumamit ba siya ng capital letter, proper way of writing ba, o nag-article writing na. Pag holistic. Pero pag analytical, you do not mind what is the way they write, the format of their composition. You just have to look into, yes, what is asked in the question. Ang tinanong ko lang, hindi ko tinanong kung paano ka magsulat, hindi ko tinanong kung paano ang intentions mo, capitalization, punctuation. Ang tinanong ko lang is magsulat ka ng 5 causes of global warming and solutions to solve global warming. So pag nakita ko yung 10 na yon, you get 10 points. Yung holistic, tiusaro namang rate dyan, consider mo piman. Hindi siya nagbigay ng 5 reasons for global warming, 5 solutions for global warming, pero ang ganda ng sulat niya, ang ganda ng format niya, iti 10 points mo pa rin na siya. Diba? Nung no-objective ka, na-check, kagang natabi mo na, nga 8 lang mo, tingkagan, 8 lang score na. Things like that. Now, for the purpose of giving me a very good penmanship, plus 0.5. Kung walang kami dyan. It's just motivation. But he did not to be included in the computation because it's not part of the competency. Always go back to competency. Apaidan yung competency, hindi ko na nga. Write legibly. Give a very good format. It's not within the competency. So pag wala doon, huwag mong idagdag yung 0.5 na score ng good penmanship. It's just a matter of motivating them like, sige, plus points, kukunang lang. Yung i-J record mo, be objective. Okay. And then, demerits, not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay, mood of the examiner down. Pwede ba kung nag-iaway ka, sabi kasi dyan, yung quarrel, pag nag-quarrel ng dalawang teacher, for example, or dalawang bata, tapos nag-anawa ka, hindi na-check ka, affected na yung mood mo. Ay na, ba't 3 pagkakalong tinabi? Nga mag-pumacheck kayo kung nag-aaway kayo sa classroom, di ba? It's being affected if it is an essay exam. Okay, that's one of the demerits of essay examination. And then ambiguous wording of the questions. Sometimes essay questions are so worded that students do not know exactly the implications of the questions. The student have wrote back-to-back 2 pages. Pero wala naman ang nilalaman. Hindi naman niya sinagot ang question mo. Ilan ang score niya? Of course, you still have to know feedback. Mag-feedback ka doon. You appreciate first, hindi ka agad-agad, you did not give me the correct answer. The proper feedbacking is to give first the positive response. I congratulate you for doing a 2-page composition, but I'm looking for the reasons and solutions to global warming. ano na makita na, that is assessment for learning. Ala, nagandito yung sulat ko, tapos, awan na yung putos. Uy, so, crumple. Basura na ng $10. Nangyayari po mga ganyan. So, to avoid, let's limit mga things na ganito. Hindi ngayon kananayon nga isa namin. You use variation of the different types of assessment. We give essay for one time, multiple choice, true false performance test, and ganyan. Oral pa, some other students are very linguistic, are very verbally linguistic, have verbal linguistic intelligences. And they would say, Mom, I do not like to write. Can I just recite it in front? Would you agree with them? Sugat rin pa ka. Gusto mo dapat nagsugat ka. But his intelligence is to stand and deliver. Give them the chance. Kasi huwag mo siyang i-score sa written, pero i-score mo siya sa oral. Because that is inclusivity. That is respect to multiple intelligence. So after they have written all their work, at na magayayin namin, idinalpas na amin submit of your work. Okay, go in front and deliver. Pagpunta na sa harapan, yan, diretso na, very articulate ang magsabi na. The causes of global warming are so on and so forth and so on and so forth. Doon mo niya debate. Manutin ibaga ng causes, manutin ibaga ng solutions. Yan. So, na-equate ba ang pagsusulat niya ng reasons and solutions to the verbal or the oral task that the kid did? Na-equate ba? Wouldn't be man. Kasi tinamdaman ko lang kung i-answer to competency. Noong muna lang naging causes kan solutions na pwedeng ipilitan. Others also would say, mamaya ko sa written, ayaw ko din sa verbal. Pwede be drawing. Would you accept? Yes or no? Basta na ipakita din doon. Pag nasagot ka, competency. You always go up to the competency. But whatever learning technique they are doing, as long as the competency is met, you have to consider. Okay. And then, time-consuming in reading the essays. Pag nag-check ka kasi sometimes sa essay, di ba, nakita na. Ije first nakikita, but tinawan mo, paligod mo, di ba, kung i-score. Tapos ije next week. Kasi bagbaga na rin. Minawan mo, ipaligod mo. Next time, tapos ije next month, yung nagad ka, kita mo. Ito naman din mo, pero kung name na kaya mo, kung kita, pero ninagad nila ito. Pwede ba yun? Sa checking ng essay work. Hindi mo. You hide their names actually. Dapat naka-hide names. Nakakasama. And then, doon ka na. Sometimes i-design for a while. Handwriting mo, hindi ko na ito siguro mga title. Kasi ang bukod naman yan, DI performance. Kaya yun na ilalagay sa agad eh. Oh, kita, miss ko na talaga. Oh, you're cheating yourself. Oh, titignan. Kasi pinod mo naman. So, dapat, check ka lang ng check. Check ka lang ng check. Yan. But do not check without your rubric. Kailangan meron ka na rubric mo. Ano ba talaga ang hinahanap mo doon sa written composition? Is it the holistic or is it the analytical? Okay. And then, meron pa ba? Oh, last topic on the table of specifications. Okay. So, let's look into the what, the when, where, who, and why, and the how of the table of specifications. This is the last lesson actually. Okay? So, TOS, or your table of specification, is assessing the process that involves the use of a wide array of traditional and authentic assessment tools and techniques for a valid, reliable, nung sinabi natin kanina, reliable, simple, objective, and realistic assessment of learning. And it is a teacher's test blueprint, ang table of specification. So, a table that helps teachers align their objectives, instruction, and assessment. And then, a device also, a table of specification is a device for describing test items in terms of content and process dimensions That is what the student is expected to know and what he or she is expected to do. Yun po ang definition ni table of specification. When is it needed? Is it only done during time of exams? Yes or no? Exam lang ba nagte-table of specs tayo? Sa ating quiz, pwede rin? Every time, kailangan may TOS. It's not only during exams. Even if you're going to give a quiz, may table of specs yan. Pero, not most of the time ginagawa. It's all up there. Kanya topic ko, manong minutes design, manong items dito ko, 10 items. That's only for short quizzes. But if it's an exam, it is very necessary that the table of specification is supposed to be done because it is the blueprint of the test. Always na naka-attach ni J test. Haan nga mabaling na check ni head or ni principal, J test paper or J test questions without toss. If first na bilang ko na, I do not understand your test, your exams. You have to give me first your TOS. Nung nakita na ni TOS, maawatan ng exams mo. So, kailangan po ang TOS natin. Okay? And then, the TOS can help teachers map the amount of class time spent on each objective. Makikita natin to sa layout namin or sa template. Mas madaling maintindihan sa template rather than the text na ito. Identify the types of items they need to include in their test. So who prepares the TOS? Is it the principal? Is it the head of the department? Hindi po. Teacher mismo ang gagawa ng TOS natin. Okay? And then, where is TOS being applied? Balikan natin si Bloom's taxonomy. Kailangan natin si Bloom's taxonomy when preparing the TOS. Tingnan natin, baka lahat tayo nag-dwell sa low level. Dapat i-get natin sa higher level of your yan. Pag nandito sa remembering and understanding ang type of test mo, these are very easy questions. Dapat i-get natin siya sa higher levels. Anong higher levels ulit? It starts with? It starts with? Ano na lang na kayo naman i-memorize sa student? I-memorize sa student ko. Well. Gusto mo basta na exam, data di ba ba ka na? Basta lesson plan, data di ba ba ka na? No for? Kay kaasi. Kay kaasi. Okay, no for? Or little for? Knowledge. Little for? Comprehension. And then more for? This parts. Okay. So, it must be an inverted pyramid. Yan. Ibig sabihin, kunti lang dito sa knowledge. Dapat more sa evaluation or repetition. Ayun. Okay. So, more of items on the part of applying, creating, evaluating, and analyzing. The why of TOS, so that there would be no mismatch from what you have taught and what is present in the text. Bago na lang, mamaya di content na kayo i-test, hanggang mo inad-adal, handa ka dyan. Because you did not prepare your TOS. Identify the achievement domains being measured and to ensure that a fair of representative samples of questions appear on the test. Numano maadaw mo kayo suro, dapat ibaga na numano the items na itid mo. Hamhang ka lang agi-guess. Nung ko naman, nouns got 5 days, dapat 5 items lang. Mali po yun. May formula that we are going to follow. Let's look into that later. And then, ito na siya. To better understand the very lengthy textual presentation a while ago, ito lang po ang ibig sabihin. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So, step 1 is to determine the coverage of your exam. Yun ang sinasabi ko. Ito. Ulitin ko ha. Coverage of your exam is ito. It's very long. You can just make it a single word or a phrase. And then, determine your testing objectives for each topic or area. You can copy the objectives. Depende po kung anong pinag-usapan ng school. If you need not put the objectives, if you have to get only the outline or the coverage, and then you go straight to duration, or you can put the objectives. Pwede din yan. And then, after you have gone to step 3, determine the duration for each content area, you determine the weight. Ilan ang weight ng per content area. And then, determine the test types. Test types, essay by line, multiple choice, true or false identification, matching time, and determine the placement of the test. Where is it located? So it says there down, the more detailed a table of specification is, the easier is to construct the test. Kasi binibigay lahat ng mga information or data na linalagay mo sa table of specifications mo. Let's try looking into this example. Mga medyo malayo, you can come here. Kasi ito ang sample. Okay. So for the first one, determine the coverage of your exam. Ito po siya. Third quarter, demonstrative pronouns, personal pronouns, adjectives, yun lahat. Kinompress ko na siya. Hindi ko kinopya ang buo na nandyan. Kinompress ko na siya para ito lang ipapakita ko sa table of specs ko. And then after which, determine the testing objectives. Ito lahat ang testing objectives ko. Kinopya ko siya. Bakit ko kinopya? Para malaman ko kung ano ang sinasabi. Use demonstrative pronoun. So, kailangan dito sa type of test ko, they are using demonstrative pronouns. There is supposed to be an agreement. And then, sinabi dito, use personal pronouns. Dapat sa test type ko, may using of personal pronouns. And then, use again, and then dito use again. Bakit nagkataon na use lahat dito? So, ibig sabihin dapat dito, may using na sinasabi. Okay, in your lesson plans, in 1 quarter, ilang meetings dapat yun? Or ilang oras dapat yun? How many hours is 1 quarter? For one subject, like English, ilang oras? Kung gumagawa kayo ng table of specs, sila niyan, naman mo ninyo. Manumatan. Any guess? My prize. Ako magsasabi ng tamang sagot. Wala. So, more or less, nagbilang na po ako. It's 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Naglalaro sa mga oras na ganyan. 28 to 32 hours ang isang subject for 1 quarter. So, ibig sabihin, sa isang quarter ko, nakuha ka in 28 hours, I'm done with all of these topics. Okay? And then, bilangin mo sa lesson plan. Sa lesson plan magsasabi kung ilan araw or ilang oras mo natakol. For example, dito sa competency na to, how many hours? 6 hours kami. Sa competency on personal pronouns, 8 hours kami. It's not necessarily the same. Habang malikit, baka sa 750 ang amin. Because your lesson plan would determine and tell you if how many hours did you spend for that specific topic. So, in this example, 6 hours kami sa nouns, 8 hours sa pronouns, 7 hours sa most common possessive nouns, and then 7 hours for descriptive adjectives, giving me 28 hours. How are we going to determine for the weight? Ito ang formula for the weight. Let's solve na. Mag-solve na tayo. Using this formula, total number of hours, so 6 times 28, 6 hours divided by 28 days times 100%. Ilan yan? Yan ang weight niya. Kuhan? Similar with 8 divided by 28 over 100 ay times 100%. 7 divided by 28 days times 100%. So ang lalabas po niyan is eto siya. Ayun ang lalabas. Tama po ba ma'am? Ang computation. Okay, so when you add all the total, you give it will give you 100%. Bibigay lahat yan 100%. Ito na ang magdi-determine kung ilang puntos ang ibibigay mo. Hang mo ay magbaga 10 points, 20 points, 30 points. Sasabihin ni table of spec kung ilan ang items na gagawin mo. So, nandito na siya. From 21.42%, i-multiply natin siya ng determine ka luma-luma items tayo. 50 ba? 50 items or 60 items? So, in this example, 50 items tipid ko ang exams. So, within 50 items, i-multiply ko siya na 21.42 times total number of items, 50. Isukatiitid na kinya 10.5. Ada ba di 10.5 na items? Awan. Yan ay kastak ma'am. I-round ko lang. Iso nga agbalin nga 10 items for pronouns. Ako ha? Yes. Similar with this one. Sa baba din. 14 and then 13 and then 13 items. So i-add mo kami di Giant, yun na siya. 15 items. Determine the type of exam. Ganyan din namin kung ang type of exam. Agarami lang T, multiple and completion test. So, ang number 1 to number 10 ko, ilalagay ko si, ito, pronouns. For numbers 1 to number 10. I-check test ko. Number 1 to number 10. Nung kita ni principal, i-check na, i-test mo, i-POS. Number 1 to 10. Multiple choice. The content is pronouns, demonstrative pronouns. Isulapat the question DJ numbers 1 to number 10. Tama ba? Yes. Napanan na kayo 3 items. Yay, 1 item in cardiac completion test on number 31. Nakuha? Yes. Kasi mabaling nga i-cardiac kami dahil yung multiple choice test. Nung kaya po, mag-isinang timanisa, ipantulit in number 31. So, kung kita maamin dahil 1 to 10, 11 to 20, 31 to 40, 21 to 30, 31 to 40, and then, apa niyan nadugligyan? Dapat hindi ito. 32 dapat yan. Kasi may 31 doon. To complete the 50. So, ano bang kayo dyan? 50. Parang puzzle siya na binabasa ng ni school head or ni principal. Pero pag tingin niya na sa exam, naiintindihan niya because of your table of specification. This is very simple. Ang gamit ni DepEd, na malamang iyon ang ginagamit ninyo, ito. Are you using this? Ang ginawa ni DepEd, meron siyang, ito yung competencies, ito yung question types niya, number of items, hindi niya linagay si weighted, si weight. And then hindi niya linagay si test placement, pero meron siya nito. Ano ang mga ito? These are the domains in the Bloom's taxonomy. So, bumalik siya kay Kaasi. I-identify mo, numano ti adda ijay remembering. So, ijay remembering, may sanang i-question ni Ikagana. Aduwa. And out of 100 items, duwa lang ti remembering ang question na. Ijay understanding, tatlo lang. Sa application, meron siyang 2. Sa analysis, meron siyang 1, 2, 3, 4, yan. Marami din. Ano na? No. Mali. 11 dito pala. 11 items from the 2 competencies. I'm sorry. 11 items from the 2 competencies. 15 items from the 3 competencies. Nakuha? Yes. So, dito ang number of items niya. And then, ilan ang kanyang question types? We have multiple choice, identification, rewriting, substitution, composition, and enumeration. Bakit ang dami? Of course, 100 items siya. Kasi alam niya, multiple choice 100 items namin. Pwede rin. Pero gusto niya na i-diversify ang kanyang mga types of tests. Kaya nagiging marami ang kanyang question types, giving a total of 100 points. Si Sir po, kung anong mas maganda doon sa simpler one na pinakita ko, kasi in my first year of making POS, ito talaga ang gamit. Para makita mo kung nagdodwell ka ba sa lower level questions or umaakyat ka ba sa higher level of thinking. Para makita mo kung ano ang mga items na nilagay sa remembering, understanding, application, hanggang sa creation. Pero, pwedeng dagdagan ulit yun ng another column for the weight and another column for the test items. Yan. Parang i-combine lang ang dalawa. Pero, we can adapt naman din ito. Pwedeng ito lang siya, ang kunin natin. Or, we can follow the depend format. Ito siya. Or, we can combine both. Ang wala sa template na to, like the weight, kunin na lang natin sa kabila, idagdag natin. So, if we're going to compute, kita-kita ang number of weight natin. Naintindihan? So, kasi pati na namin tayo yung table of specifications natin. Or iniisip lang natin kung ilang items ang gusto natin ibigay for multiple choice, identification. The table of specification is the test blueprint. It's always there with you when you're going to submit a sample of your test questions. Masapol nga naka-attach dyan table of specifications mo dyan. Noong nag-reply ni school head, mabalikan na yung lesson plan mo. I-tally na. Ito ba talaga din na-accomplish na? EJ, 1 semester, EJ 1 quarter. Baka ay multi man ipapa-exam na EJ, ubing-utihan gaya ng suro. Things like that. So, school heads do that because it's their job to do it. And the purpose is for monitoring and for the betterment of instruction. They're not going to see and check our lesson plans, our table of specifications and exams for the purpose of fault finding. It's a no-no. For the school head to see and recheck those ones is for the purpose of improvement and for the betterment of instruction. Tapos pumipintas by the learning, not only the kids but also the teacher. Ganun pa. Okay? So if we are permitted to have a sample computation, this is the last task for the morning session. Bago tayo mag-30 yung payment, sir. Okay lang po ba? Sige. So, we try out computing the percentage and then the number of items. Siguro hanggang lang sa number of items. Pwede natin itong palitan. Ang 50 natin, siguro you can make it as 60 items or 70. Sige, gawin na lang natin 80. Tatlo ang karga kayong TSA. Ang gulay dapat ilagay yung rubrics na dapat natin tignan. Sige, for a rubric, may I just show you a sample of a rubric? Gumagamit po ba tayo ng rubrics? Yes. You cannot give an essay or you cannot ask for a performance task without a rubric. Kailangan meron at merong rubrics. Okay? So for a rubric for the essay, nalakalakan mo kas-tweakikas lang. Bakit po? Dahil easier lang ang pag-encircle mo. If this is the task of the child and then you are checking it using the rubric, kailangan niya every essay, composition, merong naka-attach na rubric. Kasi dito mo siya i-score. Kanitan mo lang ito yung i-attach mo dyan. Basis for scoring the task of the kid. So dito ka na mag-insert. Nung nakita nga agaamin na kita, you rate it 4. 4 is equivalent to 40 items. Things like that. 3 is equivalent to 30 items. No na-satisfy na ang dyan. There are many examples of rubrics which you can see online. If you cannot see online, you come to school, the library, or come to INSET University, the library is very rich with resources, with sample rubrics. If you do not like to see the library, you come to the College of Teacher Education. We are very much willing to lend you some examples of rubrics we are using in our classes. But it's not necessarily being borrowed. You can make your own. I found out that in my class, this could be effective for one time, but making the rubric, democratic way of making rubric with my class is very much effective. Kasi sila na ang nagbibigay ng rubrics. So I will ask them, let's craft the rubric for your performance this afternoon. Sila na magsasabi. Ma'am, creativity, 10 points. Props, 10 points. Sila na magsasabi. So when they will practice, they would know already kung anong gagawin nila. Dapat may props. May audience impact. So they have to clap every presentation para makuha nila yung audience impact. And it's not only the teacher who will rate. Pwedeng involve mo yung klase to rate. That would be a balance factor. So habang nag-rate ka, itanumot lang yung rubrics sa groups. Mag-rate din sila natin sa rate. I-add mo lang ang divide by 4 groups siguro plus teacher. 4 divide by 5, that is the average score. May yan interested. Kaysa sila lang aggregate. You could involve them and they would love it very much. Yan. So sa crafting ng rubric, it's not necessarily being downloaded, it's not necessarily being borrowed or being read. You can make your own, and that's originality. Another lesson that you can get from me for this morning, ipunan mo yung aming rubrics na i-aramin mo. I-aramin you with your class, isurat mo aming i-check, i-aramin mo malibro. And then visit copyright office. No, i-submit mo DJ for copywriting, you can claim it as your book and personal knowledge product. Mabaling na i-claim mo DJ and improve. And you can send it. And that's sharing of knowledge to others. It's not necessarily making money, but it could be part making money because you could be selling books. Like Ma'am Lizette Knight, selling books, many books, and I'm an avid reader of the many books she has. So it's actually taken from the many things you do every day, and then collate mo lang ang dyan, i-turn mo into a product after. That tayo na research product tayo, tataman na dating book tayo na mabaling na i-copyright based from the many rubrics that you have crafted in your own. Hindi mo na problema ang editor doon, kasi ang mag-i-edit is the book company. We tried. I tried submitting books for publications. And it's the publication company, it's the publishing company who will be responsible of making the editing. It's not only on the editing. I submitted one, so kumanin ko sa cover, but they suggested of a cover and they designed the cover. Na supposedly magagaling sa akin kasi gusto ko yung cover galing sa akin. But they could be suggesting also. So wala ka ng problema sa editing. At least basta nakita mo lang may content, ang nilalaman lang ang kailangan nila. And you will be the sole author. No kaya kung sole author si kayo talaga. No kaya kung i-involve aming primary teachers or aming kayo, isabit ko aming DJ rubrics you. Maybe one will coordinate, i-collect na aming kayo siya. Pag na-collect lahat yun, and then submit you for, you can bring it to me or to Mambolona for initial checking before we're going to contact the publishing company. Tapos kung naging-publish na din dyan, kayo na magiging authors to that you could be sharing it to others. I'm sorry, I'm planning to bring some samples of books that I have planned for publication for sharing to you, but I was not able to pass by the school. Maybe I'll be sending na lang some samples of English books na na-publish ko for strategies in teaching English. I could be giving it to you for free. Yan na lang ang pwede kong maibigay. Para ma-motivate kayo to make it also. Kasi those are products from my many years of teaching. You need not go abroad so that you will be able to write a book. You need not be of the highest position in order for you to bring out a product of the research. But from your classrooms, your own classrooms, you could be designing your researches and you could be producing your own books. Kami na lang po. So, you will be ending there if there are no questions. May tanong? Sige lang. Kahit anong tanong, kahit hindi related dito. Gusto ko din yun. Sige, kasi ang workshop natin mamayang hapon, after your lunch, I will not be with you already for the afternoon session because of the call of duty. I have to go to my post. And I will be giving you this task to use your lesson plans. Kindly go back to your lesson plans together with your curriculum guides. And then, siguro 1 quarter lang, or hanya the whole year, or 1 quarter lang, you can choose first quarter. Siguro first quarter, tatlong mausarin na lang sa first quarter yung i-anticipate lang the number of hours. No, ang start ka yung first quarter, the result of the workshop you will be using, you will be crafting this afternoon will not be the one that you will be using for the first semester. Magpapalit kayo at magpapalit ka ng number of days na natapal ninyo. It's just an assumption for this afternoon. Manumaan mo mag-take dyan. Though this is prescribing na 5 days ang isang lesson, 5 days ang isang lesson, pwede din ito ang guide ninyo. Nung ito yung actual teaching, you cannot get that exactly for 5 days. Nung mo ipilit niya 5 days, kung mag-prescriptive dito, kung na naman ng 5 days dapat nagpas ko, no. It would be dependent sa mastery ng lesson ng inyong mga students. Nung handa na master, makag-move, mag-change ka ng strategy, dapat na-master mo bago ka mag-move for the next competency. Okay? So that is for this afternoon. After you have looked into your lesson plan, you prepare the table of specification, and I will be leaving the template for this. Even this copy, I will be leaving it to you para ito ang guide ninyo. So, this will be your guide for doing the task this afternoon. I-follow na lang ninyo ito. Or you could agree, maybe a facilitator could facilitate to Sir siguro i-fix yun ano yung template o sa inyo if you will be using this one or the template format, or you could be joining both. Tapno na yung lang ba ito i-generate item placement. And then, after that, let us na okay. And then, gagawin na, after the table of spec, it will not end there. We will make sample questions. So, pag ilagay natin doon na essay, ilagay natin doon na multiple choice, gagawa pa din tayo. Anyway, 1 quarter lang siya. And, if with essay questions, you have to design your rubrics. So, gagawa kayo ng rubrics. And then, after that, maybe peer checking na lang. Exchange papers na lang. At check tayo mga kasi. Because I will not be around to see you. So, mag-exchange papers na lang tayo if we are done after. And then, presentation of outputs to be done. Pwede siguro na i-facilitate ni sir. Mag-presenta lang na, or ni Ma'am Giselle, mag-presenta lang tayo ng outputs para makita natin. And we correct our own mistakes. Or if there are improvement, we can do it also. Okay, so to end, let's all read, please. Assessments, go.
Assessment should compare the performance of students to a set of expectations,
Never to the performance of the others. We do not compare and we use assessment to assess the learning competencies, not to compare to the performance of others. Ay, natakbo ko lang, uy, nalagay ka yung sunang musika, that's not the purpose. Okay? So, until there, we have to serve and work with